My name is Owen and I'm stage 4 cancer patient. I was diagnosed as terminal 19 months ago. And within 6 months of my diagnosis, I had shrunk my tumors around 50% through diet and fasting. And I continued to fast and I shrunk my tumors even more. Today, my tumors are so small. I'm still fighting the battle to remission, but to this day, my last scans, my doctor was like, like we can't even tell if these are tumors. They might be tumors. They're abnormalities, is kind of the word. And so I did all of that with metabolic therapy. I stopped doing chemotherapy. I stopped taking pharmaceutical drugs, and I everything that my medical doctors told me to do, I did the opposite. And that's why I'm making this video today. I'm just like sitting in my chair right now, and I just had this thing. We have to change the standard of care in America. Here's the thing. When someone is diagnosed with cancer, there are laws, and those laws require chemotherapy. The only exceptions are like freedom, right? Like I can walk away from the medical system. But if your child is diagnosed with at least leukemia, I'm not sure this is true with all cancers, then by law they have to do chemotherapy. I don't know. We're looking into, are there any like recourses? Can a parent opt out of that? Because chemotherapy will kill your kid. And if you're doing chemotherapy right now, or you did chemotherapy, I'm so glad you made it out. I want you to know I don't believe in chemotherapy. And I think if chemotherapy is killing you while it kills your cancer, it's not a treatment, right? Like it's not a treatment. It's something else. Okay. Because the standard of care needs to change. The standard of care means this. There are laws in this country when a person's diagnosed on what a hospital can do, can't do, and all those kinds of things. All of those laws are in favor of chemotherapy companies and selling medication to the public. That's, at the end of the day, follow the money. Like, I'm not trying to be a big old conspiracy theorist here. I want to see a change, because here's what happened. They saw my tumors and they assigned me to death. They told me I was going to die. They told me there was no chance. They told me 2 to 5 years. And they said it over and over again. They told me not to Google, that they would Google for me, that they would do the research for me. To this day, I have sent them 4 or 5 studies about fasting and keto. They've never even responded to them. They told me they'd read them. Oh, send us your studies. We'll read them. We'll talk about them. Never once. Everything the doctors told me to do led to death. They told me there's nothing you can do, okay? But we still have chemotherapy we recommend, and it will improve your quality of life. Hilarious, man. And then they took me into this room, and I believed them. So they took me into this room where everybody was bald. Their eyes were bulgy, and they were weak and sick and miserable. And they told me that the medicine will improve my quality of life. Look, I didn't take their medicine. I instead adopted an alternative treatment schedule of diet, keto therapy, keto vegan diet, huge. Keto vegan diet, aggressive, calorie reduction, switching to 900,000 calories a day. And how do you do that? Intermittent fasting. And intermittent fasting leads to long-term fasting. So I just finished a 48-hour fast. And I fast every day for 20 hours, and I love it. I'm not starving. I'm actually healthy enough to go snowboarding. I've been snowboarding every weekend this season. On top of that, I'm playing with my kids. And on top of that, I'm doing so well that I'm actually enjoying a burger every now and then, like an In-N-Out burger. Like, I'm not eating McDonald's, but like I'll go to like Astro Burgers or something. That's like a gourmet burger, And not all the time, but every once in a while, because I'm healthy enough, because I understand how my body works. And I have doctors. I have doctors that are alternative care doctors, right? Like a naturopath. I have a naturopath. I have an integrative oncologist. I have 2 chiropractors, and chiropractors are a huge resource. Some chiropractors are rack 'em and crack 'em. They're just going to crack your back, and that's cool. Like, I'm not here to knock that. But I see a chiropractor named Dr. Terry Harmon in Kentucky, and I found him on YouTube. I was watching YouTube videos about cancer, my cancer, and learning. And he did a study that was fascinating to me on the HRV, the heart rate variable, and its effect on cancer cells and tumors. And I sought him out and I called him and I paid for him, and I do consult it. Not all the time. Like, I consult with him like once a quarter, maybe twice a year, something like that. Invaluable doctor. I also have a chiropractor that I see for chiropractic and spinal health, like normal chiropractic stuff, and that's something I see locally. My point is that the wealth of information that I receive from these 4 different doctors have led me to the information that has saved my life, and it gave my kids their dad back. Hey kids, are you home? Come here real fast. Come here real fast. So, like, I have 4 kids. 3 of them live with me, and then one of them is grown, and I love them to death. And the doctor told me that these kids would no longer have a dad. They said there was nothing to do. Come here. I want them to see your faces. So
Only one is here right now.
All right. Well, this is Scotty girl. She's my youngest girl. She's a miracle baby. She's amazing. This is my wife, Teresa. And this is I'm just doing for the cancer channel.
Oh, nice.
So, okay. Thank you, sweetie. You know, they told my kids that they would not have a dad. They told my wife that she would not have a husband. And they told us there was nothing that they could do, but they had a chemo for us. You know, I don't know if you see the irony. We can't do anything, but here's some chemo anyway. You know what I mean? Like, how about go enjoy your last few years? You know what I mean? They told me what they're required by law to tell me. And that is the standard of care. And the standard of care must change in America. The power must be taken away from the pharmaceutical companies who run the hospitals. Okay? Now, they don't run them in any type of like forceful way. I believe in doctors. I believe in surgeons. I believe in medicine. And I believe that those doctors are being forced to do things that are actually not healthy for the patient. And I feel like if the doctors knew more, then they would advocate for metabolic therapy. But the doctors go to doctor school, medical school, which is financed by the pharmaceutical companies. All the look, I can't ask you to do all the research that I've done, and I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but I want to teach you about the reality of the situation. It's the pharmaceutical companies make a ton of money. Let me tell you something. My chemo was something like $8,000 an injection, right? And my insurance pays for that, sure, but I've been paying my insurance for decades. You know what I mean? The point is that I bought a hyperbaric chamber, which has been shown to be more effective than radiation. I bought a hyperbaric chamber for my house for $6,000. I bought an infrared sauna for $2,000. Right? If patients were educated, then we could invest our money into the therapies that will actually help us beat cancer. Whereas in the hospitals, you are only allowed to do chemotherapy, radiation, or surgery. And anything else is called like quackery, or it's called, the doctor will roll your eyes. Some of your doctors will tell you. There's some doctors out there that are like, dude, go do keto, go do V. And but don't tell them I told you that, right? Because they could be sued. And there's this wonderful channel called Chris Beat Cancer. In fact, he was so inspirational to me. That's why I decided to beat cancer with Owen. I like Chris, and I like what he's done. He interviewed recently on his channel this medical professional who talked about how if you believed or even talked about non-chemotherapy, non-pharmaceutical stuff, you were on the outskirts. You were laughed at. You were publicly mocked, And she said like, yeah, and I did promote these things, right? She eventually walked away. Now she helps patients in metabolic care, Like I got into an argument on Twitter, and I don't really like to argue on Twitter, but I knew the guy. We've worked together and we've always been friendly. His son has cancer. And he told me, look, his son is sick and his son is dying and his son is strapped to a chemotherapy chair. I'm thriving. And yet he argued with me that metabolic therapy is quackery. And he literally used those words. He was like, this is quackery. And it's like, dude, your son is dying, bro. I'm thriving. My friends are thriving, right? Callie is thriving. Sorona is thriving. These are people my age who have my cancer. And they did not do chemotherapy, right? They did not do radiation. We did the alternative route and we're all thriving. Meanwhile, people are dying, strapped to their chemotherapy chairs telling me, you believe in quackery. And it's a thing. It's a real thing. And we have to challenge people's beliefs because, look, the pharmaceutical companies know that chemotherapy is not working. They know that 70% of the general cancer population that gets chemotherapy, 70% will get a recurrence of cancer, okay? Can you imagine any other business where you would accept that from such a huge, huge investment? Can you imagine paying, let's just say, $80,000 to have your car repaired, only for 70% of the time for it to break again, and they're not liable? You still have to go back and pay for more by law. So that's chemotherapy, right? We all know someone who chemotherapy has done well for them, but it's only been 3 years. You know what I mean? And that's the thing, is that it's 70%. There is a 30% that, hallelujah, they make it. Hallelujah, right? But there's a 70% where it comes back, and it comes back as stage 4. And this is what happened to me. It came back as stage 4 because it never actually went away, right? Because chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery do not approach the root cause of your cancer. Check it out. Your body made cancer, okay? Most people believe that it was genetics and beyond your control. This is called the genetic theory of cancer. It's the prevailing thought on cancer, and it's behind all the chemotherapy. So the whole idea is cancer's in your genes. We need to target the genes, target the quickly reproducing cells. You guys all know this. That's why your hair falls out, because now there's more targeted stuff, but you get it. It's all based on cancer's in a gene and you can't control it. But the reality is that genes are expressed based on epigenetic factors, meaning that there's mitochondrial things that happen that cause a gene to be expressed. And if you eat a certain way, like extra healthy, certain genes won't get expressed, like the breast cancer gene, right? Similarly, if you're in toxic environments, like living near a smokestack, right? Or like a chemical plant, something, then that can cause those genes to be expressed, right? Bad genes to be expressed. This is the epigenetic theory of cancer, or the metabolic theory of cancer, which is that it's not your genes. It's actually in the mitochondria. It's in the cell redivision and how healthy your body is. And if you have a body that has toxins built up for whatever reason, you're more likely to get cancer. Similarly, if you get cancer, you can reverse it by changing your metabolic health. Here's the problem. Metabolic health includes things like fasting, keto vegan diet, hyperbaric oxygen, off-label prescription drugs like aspirin to reduce inflammation. I take aspirin every day. Not even for pain. It's just part of to reduce inflammation in my body. You can't profit on those things. There's no business around it, right? And so that's the situation of cancer care in America, is that when you go into a doctor's office, the doctor isn't even aware of metabolic therapies. And if they are, they probably think that you're a wackadoodle, right? Like, metabolic therapies are whack, dude. Like, that's crazy stuff. It's it's cancer, surgery. It's surgery, chemo, and radiation. Yeah, but all your people are dying. Well, can't control cancer, right? That's the genetic theory. The metabolic theory of cancer is why we need to change the standard of care. Your doctor should not be allowed to say you have a terminal disease. No, they told me it was terminal, nothing I could do. Your doctor should not be allowed to say there's nothing you can do. Your doctor should be required to refer you to an alternative care facility. If, in fact, there is nothing that the hospital can do, because hospitals only provide radiation, chemotherapy, and radiation, they should be required. In any case heretofore called terminal, they must be required to send you to an alternative care facility, or at least aware you that they exist, right? Now, I would love to change the standard of care to this. I mean, doctors need to be educated on metabolic therapy. We have to approach honestly with the United States government and the public that the pharmaceutical companies have far too much power. And we need to address that openly and honestly. And we need to put policies in place so that when someone like me, a dad, a husband, a son, gets diagnosed with what has been called terminal cancer, the doctors can say, look, there's nothing we can do for you here except offer you palliative chemotherapy. However, by law, I'm required to let you know about metabolic therapy. And there are multiple metabolic places, in this area. Here are the 5, and you can research those on your own. That's it. They don't even need to offer metabolic healthcare, although it would be amazing. It'd be amazing if our hospitals did fasting clinics, because I went to a fasting clinic and shrunk my tumors 30% in 7 days. Now, I know I'm giving you guys a bunch of numbers, 30%, 50%. I've tracked all of this on my website. Okay, go to beatcancerwithme.com. The x-rays, the scans, it's all there. I know my numbers. Okay, first 90 days, 30%. The next 90 days, not quite as much. We rounded it up to 50%. After the fasting clinic, it was another 30%. And it wasn't all the tumors, it was the bulky one. So look, I know my numbers, and I want you to understand them, because it would be great if hospitals adopted a fasting clinic. You go to the hospital now, in the chemotherapy room, they're feeding the patients donuts and soda. Okay, which grow cancer. Glucose, sugar, carbs grows cancer faster than anything else. They know that. They'll tell you that. But they'll be like, the chemotherapy's strong enough. So think about that system, though, from the outside perspective. The standard of care is you get diagnosed with this disease that feeds on sugar and carbs. We give you this medicine that won't really fix it, but while you're taking the medicine, we'll feed you free sugar and carbs. So look, we need to change the standard of care in America. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below.